Welcome, fellow cinephiles, to a culinary journey unlike any other. Forget your fancy Michelin stars and delicate amuse-bouches, because today we're sinking our teeth into Barbaque, a French horror comedy that serves up social commentary with a side of, well, you'll see. Our story begins in a quaint, perhaps too quaint, French town, where Sophie and Vincent Pascal run a butcher shop passed down through generations. But times are tough. The local supermarket is luring away customers with its rock bottom prices, and Sophie and Vincent's once thriving business is on the brink of collapse. They're stressed, they're in debt, and their relationship is starting to feel as dry as an overcooked steak. Sophie, played with a perfect blend of exasperation and simmering frustration, dreams of a different life, a life beyond the daily grind of meat and cleavers. Vincent, portrayed with a kind of weary resignation, seems more resigned to their fate, clinging to tradition even as it drags them under. Adding to their woes, a group of zealous vegan activists has set up camp right outside their shop. They're loud, they're persistent, and their constant protests aren't exactly helping business. Sophie, in particular, finds their holier than thou attitude incredibly irritating. You can practically see the meat sweats forming just from their presence. And then things take a decidedly unconventional turn. In a moment of pure, unadulterated frustration, Sophie accidentally hits one of the most vocal activists with her van. It's a shocking moment, played with a dark comedic edge. What follows isn't a frantic call to the police, but a wave of panic and a truly terrible idea. In a haze of fear and desperation, Sophie and Vincent decide to, well, let's just say they dispose of the body in a way that only a struggling butcher could conceive. It's a decision born out of panic, but one that will have truly bizarre and far reaching consequences. The next day, something strange happens. Vincent, perhaps subconsciously inspired by their recent disposal, starts experimenting with a new type of meat. He tells Sophie it's from a special, ethically sourced farm. The customers are intrigued. There's a novelty, an unusual tenderness and flavor that they can't quite place. Sales start to pick up. The shop is buzzing again. Word spreads like wildfire. People are lining up around the block for Vincent's mysterious new product. Sophie, initially relieved by their newfound success, starts to notice some unsettling details. The sheer quantity of this special meat seems impossible. Vincent is acting strangely secretive, and there's a certain je ne sais quoi about the texture that's starting to make her stomach churn. The film masterfully builds suspense here. We see glimpses of Sophie's growing unease. She finds a discarded vegan pamphlet, a stark reminder of their dark secret. Vincent becomes increasingly withdrawn and protective of his source. There are hushed phone calls and late night deliveries. The audience, like Sophie, starts to piece together the horrifying truth, even if they don't want to. And then comes the moment of truth, the pièce de résistance of this macabre feast. Sophie, driven by suspicion and a growing sense of dread, finally discovers the horrifying secret ingredient in Vincent's wildly popular meat. The revelation leads to a confrontation between Sophie and Vincent that is both terrifying and darkly comedic. Vincent, initially defensive, tries to justify his actions with the desperation of their situation. He argues that it was an accident, that it solved their problems, that people like it. It's a twisted commentary on consumerism and the lengths people will go to for something new and exciting, regardless of its origin. But the Pascal's problems are far from over. The other activists, realizing one of their own has gone missing, intensify their protests. The pressure mounts, and the couple's carefully constructed facade begins to crumble. The film cleverly uses the activists as a constant source of ironic tension. Their unwavering moral stance juxtaposed with the truly monstrous acts happening within the butcher shop. What follows is a descent into darkly comedic chaos. Sophie, initially horrified, finds herself reluctantly drawn into Vincent's macabre solution. They have to deal with more missing activists, leading to increasingly absurd and gruesome situations. The film doesn't shy away from the dark humor inherent in the situation, playing the horror for laughs in a way that is both shocking and strangely entertaining. Think of it as a very French, very bloody take on Weekend at Bernie's, but with sausages. The irony deepens as the community becomes increasingly obsessed with Vincent's special meat. They rave about its unique flavor and texture, completely oblivious to its truly organic origins. The film cleverly satirizes our often unthinking consumption habits and the allure of the new and exotic, no matter how questionable its source. Of course, such a gruesome secret can't stay buried forever. The tension builds to a breaking point as the authorities start to investigate the missing activists. Suspicion falls on the butcher shop, and Sophie and Vincent's carefully constructed world begins to unravel in a spectacularly messy fashion. The climax is a whirlwind of panic, close calls, and darkly humorous attempts to cover their tracks. The final act is a roller coaster of suspense and black comedy. Without giving away too much of the delicious details, let's just say that the truth, like a poorly ground sausage, eventually spills out. The consequences are both horrifying and darkly satisfying, a fitting end to this bizarre and bloody tale. To find out exactly what happens in the end, you got to watch this film.